What's good, YouTube? Welcome back. Today it is LazyDaze Tubby, and I'm back at it again on my solo channel. I am doing some more Count Dankula content for you guys today, and it is his series, The Absolute Mad Lads, and we have got his episode, Olga of Kiev. I'm really looking forward to finding out what this story has. He has always got an interesting subject to talk about, and he is absolutely hilarious. Has me in stitches, and I'm really looking forward to finding out what he's got in store for me today. If you haven't seen his content before, please head over to his channel. Links in the description box down below. If you're enjoying my reaction to this type of content and you're looking forward to more, you know what to do. You need to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. But we are going to jump straight into this one.
The church has always had its share of very strange saints, like Saint Drogo, who was so ugly that he became the patron saint of unattractive people, or Saint Nicholas, the jolly gift giver to children all over the world, who is also the patron saint of prostitutes. But these
Hey, what?
saints all did saintly things like preaching to the pagans, performing miracles, and other various good deeds.
Okay.
Well, today's saint, who is also a mad lass, took a slightly different path in life.
Yeah.
A pious woman, don't get me wrong, but a pious woman who outwitted emperors, slaughtered thousands, and burned entire cities to the ground. Saint Olga of Kiev. Please leave a like and a comment on this video because it really helps me in the algorithm. Olga's early childhood is a bit of a mystery, as she came from the land of the fermented potato, where record keeping was not exactly at the top of the priority list.
Wait, what does he mean by fermented potato? What does he actually mean by fermented potato? Like, you throw me off there. Okay.
Most records of her life come from the Primary Chronicle, a historical account of the Kievan Rus, the people who occupied the land that is nowadays Western Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine.
Okay.
The Primary Chronicle is not the most reliable source, with some things being exaggerated and some dates shifted around.
Oh, I see.
Everything in the story must be taken with a grain of salt. Olga could have been born any time between 890 AD and 925 AD and was most probably a Varangian. And Varangian is just the Greek and Rus name for Scandinavian. And the Varangians, known as the Rus, conquered Kiev in 882 AD, thus establishing the Kievan Rus. According to historians, Olga was likely no older than 15 years old when she was married to Prince Igor I. Igor was the heir to the founder of the Rus' empire, Rurik. But he was very young when Rurik died and was therefore placed under the guardianship of one of Rurik's kin, a man named Oleg. Oleg consolidated power in the region and established their capital in Kiev, as they had previously been operating out of Novgorod. Oleg had a relationship with a tribe called the Drevlians, where he would demand tribute from them, and the Drevlians would join in the Kievan Rus' military campaigns against the Byzantines. When Oleg died and Igor assumed the throne, the Drevlians stopped paying their tributes and instead paid tribute to a local warlord. So, in 945, Igor went to the Drevlian capital of Iskorostan to flex his muscles a little bit and demand his tributes back. In the face of their larger armies, the Drevlians buckled and paid Igor what was demanded.
Oh, I'm pretty sure you would as well.
On his way back to Kiev, however, Igor had a bright idea. He would ask the Drevlians for even more money, so he sent the majority of his army back to Kiev, and he rode back to Iskorostin himself with just a small escort. This was unwise, and the Drevlians gave as much credence to his threats as you would to the threats of a BBC TV licensing agent. According to the Byzantine chronicler Leo the Deacon, Igor was captured by them, tied to tree trunks, and torn in two. Right up the ballsack seam. That is really not a good way to go.
Oh, damn.
After Igor's death, Olga assumed the throne as regent, as her son Sviatoslav was only 3 years old. Olga only learned of her husband's death when 20 Drevlian diplomats rocked up to Kiev to tell Olga that they had killed him and that she should marry his murderer, Prince Mal. Olga seemed strangely calm and surprisingly happy with this turn of events, and she replied to the diplomats by saying,
I'm confused.
"Your proposal is pleasing to me. Indeed, my husband cannot rise again from the dead. But I desire to honour you tomorrow in the presence of my people. Return now to your boat and remain there with an aspect of arrogance. I shall send for you on the morrow, and you shall say, 'We will not ride on horses nor go on foot. Carry us in our boat, and you shall be carried in your boat.'" The diplomats returned to their boat
Trying to see what the play on words were
as
there.
instructed, and sure enough, come morning, Olga's people arrived to invite them to the castle. The diplomats repeated the magic words that Olga gave them, and lo and behold, the people of Kiev lifted the boats up and carried them through the streets towards the castle. The diplomats thought that this was, in fact, a great honour Olga was bestowing on them, as she promised. It was like they were royals being carried through the streets by palanquin.
Okay. By Paraquin.
Palanquin.
But imagine my shock. Olga's strangely calm and happy demeanour was all an act. Olga was in fact extremely furious and massively upset at, the whole husband murder thing. As they entered the castle, they were flung into a deep trench that had been dug the night before. And they were buried alive. And as the dirt...
Peak. Oh, that's horrible. That's one of the worst ways you could go. Oh, that's peak.
was being dropped into the trench, and the men were looking up and screaming as they were being buried alive. It is said...
I was gonna say, like, do you think you could try and save maybe one or two of you and like get one up, but you've just got the whole city of people around you. So even if one of you gets up, you're just getting fucking booted down. Do you know what I mean? That's so peak. You literally can't do fuck all. I'm trying to think. There's no way out of that. Literally, the only way out of that is you ask how many of you. You just be like, look, we got one person's got to suffer. The rest of us have got to kill them. You know what I mean? Well, but even then, the other one commits suicide if you've got a weapon. Hopefully, you've got a weapon. If not, you've got to start beating the shit out of each other. Well, that's going to be even worse, you know. I don't think I would beat the shit out of someone. If I had a knife, that would be fine. I'd be like, do you know what? I'd just like end it here and there. I'm not being buried alive. know what I mean? Fuck that. Fuck being buried alive.
That Olga Slav squatted down next to the trench, looking down at them, and asked them whether they found this honour to their liking.
Oh, she's sick. She's sick in the head. What else has she got? What else is she gonna do?
That is fucking metal. I kind of fancy her. 20 dead men in exchange for her husband was not quite enough to satiate Olga's bloodlust. She sent a message to the Drevlians telling them to send their distinguished men to her in Kiev so that she might go to their prince with due honour. The Drevlians, who had not yet heard the news about what happens to diplomats in Kiev, gathered a group of...
Holy, they don't realise. They don't realise.
the best men who governed the land of Dereva.
No.
This new batch of merry travellers arrived in Kiev, ready to escort their new princess back to the expectant Prince Mal. When they arrived, they were informed that the princess does not meet with sweaty boys. However, Olga's people had drawn all of them a bath so that they could be nice and clean for their meeting with the princess.
Interesting.
So, a bunch of governors of your enemy tribe are in your bathhouse. What do? Well, if you're Olga, what you do is you seal every door of the bathhouse and set it on fucking fire with all of them inside. At this point, 20 Drevlians have been planted in the front garden, and another group of government officials from Dereva have been left to roast until golden brown.
Oh, yeah, because they're going to be boiled. If they're in the water, they're going to be boiled, right? Because of the heat. Right? Or am I, again, just talking shit? If not, you're just going to be burnt alive by the crushing wood and shit, right? There's no way you survive that. Shit.
Does this finally avenge her husband?
No, of course not.
No, not quite yet. Olga sent another message to the Drevlians, who still had no idea what was going on. And the message that she sent was that they were to prepare great quantities of mead in the city where they killed her husband, so that she may weep over his grave and hold a funeral for him.
Okay.
Olga then arrived at the city with a small retinue of guards and followers, where her request to have a lot of booze waiting had been met. Olga held a feast, as was the Slavic pagan tradition, and wept over her husband's grave. Eventually, the Drevlians joined the feast, drinking heavily and enjoying the festivities. After all the Drevlians were completely smashed, Olga pulled what historians now call a pro-gamer move. She ordered her followers to murder all of the Drevlians who were now far too drunk to fight back.
Holy shit.
And, according to the Primary Chronicle, in this one fell swoop, Olga murdered 5,000 people. With now over 5,000 people dead, surely this was enough.
Is
Her
it
husband
not?
must have been avenged 100 times over by now. Was it now time to end the bloodshed? Nope. This was just the end of the cloak and dagger stage, and the beginning of continuing her revenge on the battlefield. Olga returned to Kiev and raised an army, and then tore a bloody scar across Dereva. She easily conquered every settlement that she came across until she got to the big boy, Iskarostan, the city where her husband was murdered. She laid siege to the city for around a year, but the city didn't seem like it was going to break anytime soon. So Olga did what she did best.
Start the city.
Thought of the most fucked up Scooby-Doo scheme that she could think of and
Scooby-Doo scheme. What's
banked
she
on
gonna
the
do?
Drevlians having as many brain cells as a wet piece of toast. Olga sent a message into the city, explaining how all the other settlements that capitulated were now living in peace under the Kievan Rus, cultivating their own lands, living in their little shacks, and all that shit that Alex Jones loves. And that the city was going hungry for no reason rather than simply paying tribute.
Okay.
Seeing as this was around 1,000 years before Slavs thought that being hungry was a good model for society, the Drevlians agreed to pay a tribute if Olga would lift the siege. But they were still worried that Olga was out for revenge.
Mm-hmm.
And they were right to be
Yeah.
worried.
Yeah,
Olga sent back a reply that the events of the feast night were plenty on the revenge front, and that all she wanted in tribute was 3 sparrows and 3 pigeons from every household. The Drevlians were elated with this tribute demand, as it was a very small price to pay for the freedom of their city. The households quickly gathered their tributes and sent their collected birds to Olga, who promised to lift the siege by morning. That night,
Okay.
the Drevlians went to bed happy. Finally, their ordeal was over. They had paid tribute and could now rest.
It's false hope. She's hoping for false hope there, isn't she? Let them rest so they're not expecting anything. She's gonna do some kind of like assassination, like jump over the walls with like only like a few men.
Easy. After all, it's not like all of this was just part of another insane scheme that
Mhm.
Olga came up
Yeah,
with,
it was.
right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the soldiers in the Kievan Russi's camp were busy. Olga had instructed her men to tie a piece of sulphur wrapped in cloth to each bird's leg,
Mm-hmm.
and then wait until nightfall. And as darkness descended on the city, Olga decided that it was time to give them a little fireworks show. You know, just to celebrate the end of the siege. And the siege did end. Just not in the way that the Drevlians hoped. Olga's soldiers
Wait.
lit the sulphur
Wait, so they got.
that was tied to the birds' legs and then released them.
Oh my god! Oh my god! That's so creative. That's so goddamn creative. Oh my god! What the hell?
Birds then flew back to their nests in the city. You know, nests, those
Yeah.
small dry things made of literal kindling. Nests that are usually built in the roofs of homes. And an interesting thing about the time period is the roofs of homes back then were made of thatch. Thatch, which is made of dry straw, dry reeds, or any other type of dry vegetation. And another really interesting thing about thatch is it is flammable as fuck. Like,
Oh, she's so creative and so brilliant. That's fucking. Oh my god, that's crazy. If it's true, that's insane. Holy shit.
really, really flammable. So pretty much every single building in the city burst into flames, and it was impossible to put out all the fires due to the sheer number of them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people burned alive in their homes, but some managed to escape and fled the city. But as they fled, Olga's men were waiting for them at the gates. Some of the fleeing citizens were just cut down on the spot, some were captured and sold as slaves, but Olga did leave some alive to remain in the ashes of the city. After all, someone had to pay her tribute. With that last massacre,
She still asked tribute.
Olga's need to make Drevlians alivened finally subsided, and she returned to Kiev to rule as regent until her son came of age. She was a very competent ruler, and with the land of Dereva fully conquered, she set about making the land better for the people who lived there. She established trading posts and hunting reserves along the Mista and Luga rivers, as well as collecting her tributes from the Drevlians. She changed the system for gathering tributes from taking tributes from local chiefs to sending out her own officials to gather the tributes and bring them back. This is actually the first recorded legal reform in Eastern European history. So Olga was a...
If that's true, that's really interesting as well.
Ruthless tactician and a good ruler. But none of these things are very saintly. You know, massacring people and burning down an entire city. Well, that's just not very Bible of you. So, you might...
Not very Bible of you. His humour just tickles my tism.
Might be wondering why she is remembered as a saint. Well, in the 950s, she travelled to Constantinople in order to meet with the then Emperor of the Byzantines, Constantine VII. And while she was there, she converted from being a Slavic pagan to being Christian by both the Emperor himself and the Patriarch of Constantinople, who was kind of like a mini Pope for Eastern Orthodoxy. Sources do not give a lot of detail on why she visited Constantine or why she converted, but they do tell a lot of how she was converted and how she was taught the ways of Christianity. The Emperor, in the most delicate possible terms, thought that Olga was fucking bang tidy. And he was...
She fine as fuck.
also impressed with her intelligence. So he brought up that she was worthy enough to reign with him in Constantinople. Now, Olga wasn't too keen on Constantine. So she came up with one of her famous schemes. She mentioned how she wasn't truly Christian yet because she wasn't baptized, but she would only accept baptism if the emperor performed it himself. The emperor and patriarch agreed and baptized Olga and gave her the Christian name Helena. The primary chronicle says that this was her being named after Saint Helena, but some historians argue that this may have actually been Constantine giving Olga the name of his current wife, Helena.
What is this man doing?
The cheeky bastard. After the baptism, Olga did seem genuinely happy.
He just didn't want to. The reason why he done that is because he didn't want to get his mistress and his wife's name confused. And I just didn't want to be dealing with that. That way, when he's in bed, he can call out the same name no matter which girl he's sleeping with.
Happy in her new faith, and the patriarch instructed her in all the ways of Christianity, like how to pray and not be a thought. Was keen to get his end away now that he wasn't
she was for the streets,
pursuing a heathen but a good trad Christian girl, and he renewed his proposal to have her reign with him in Constantinople. Olga, however, had yet again proven that she is always the smartest person in the room, explaining to Constantine that because he had baptized her, he was now her godfather, and it would be wrong for a father to marry his daughter. Clever girl. The emperor admitted to Olga.
I didn't know that about, like, yeah, I just didn't know that. If the person who baptizes you is one of your godfathers, that's an interesting thing in the Bible. I didn't know
that she had outwitted him. So he sent her back to Kiev with various gifts like gold, silver, silks, and vases. This guy wanted to marry her. She said no. Then he gave her a bunch of money anyway.
Yeah.
Simp. There are some historians who argue
The original sim.
against the validity of this story and say that it's probably massively embellished. These are the kinds of people who eat bran flakes with water every morning and whose favourite TV show is the evening news. You know, wankers. But if I didn't bring up that this story is disputed, then I would get screechers in the comments, and I get plenty of them on Twitter already. Now, Olga was not the first Rus to convert from paganism to the God Squad, but she was the most powerful Rus to ever be baptized during her lifetime.
Okay.
Christianity was not, at this point, the religion of choice among the Kievan Rus, and Christians were in fact treated with quite a bit of hostility. Upon Olga's return to Kiev, she attempted to convert her son to the ways of the Lord, but he was unwilling to part with his pagan faith. He said that his followers would laugh at him for converting to Christianity, and despite Olga trying to convince him that they would all also convert if he did, because followers are only in it for the clout, he dismissed her
They're clout-hungry shots.
efforts. He did, however, agree not to actively persecute Christians in the kingdom, which was a very big milestone for the time. There are several sources citing Olga's efforts to try to increase the Christianization of her kingdom, including her correspondence with the Holy Roman Emperor trying to get him to appoint bishops for the Rus. This was unsuccessful, as by this point Olga's son Sviatoslav had risen to power with his band of pagan followers, and as soon as the bishops arrived, they were exiled. Olga remained in the castle of Vyshgorod in Kiev, ruling while her son was away on military campaigns. She even managed to successfully defend the city from a siege in 968, because fortunately the attackers didn't know about the old Burnie bird trick. After returning from his campaigns in 969, Sviatoslav told Olga his intentions to move to Peryaslavets, a city closer to the centre of the empire, since it was where all the spoils of his wars were collected. Olga was heartbroken by this news, and being in poor health, begged her son to stay in the city until her death at least. Sviatoslav agreed to this, but did not have to wait long, as 3 days later, on the 11th of July, according to the church, Olga of Kiev passed away. The primary chronicle reports a period of great mourning at her loss, and her son respected her faith in death by not holding the traditional pagan feast, but instead allowing a priest to perform last rites over her in a Christian burial. Although
that's nice of her son.
Olga was unable to Christianize her kingdom, her grandson Vladimir officially adopted Christianity in 988 and went about converting his kingdom to a Christian nation. In 1547, nearly 600 years after her death, Olga was named a saint by the Russian Orthodox Church due to her early adoption of Christianity and attempts to spread Christianity among her people. The Eastern Orthodox, the Ruthenian Greek Catholic, and the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church all call Olga by the honorific Is Apostolos, which means equal to the apostles. Although not with the equal to the apostles honorific, Olga is also venerated as a saint in the Roman Catholic Church. She is the patron saint of widows and converts. Olga was a ruthless leader who slayed anyone who slighted her. And yet, she still managed to be canonized as a saint by the church. She was a woman who loved her husband so much that when he was killed...
Yeah, find you that ride or die. That's the ride or die you fucking need. Find you a girl like that. Mate, I would destroy a nation for you.
Her response was to pretty much annihilate an entire civilization and burn a whole city to the ground. You know how the saying goes, hell hath no fury, And that's a hell of a fury.
It's Count Dankula on YouTube.
You know I'm subscribed. That was a great episode. I enjoy it. Count Dankula makes amazing content and tells great stories about these types of things. So good. Has me chuckling along all the time. I hope you guys enjoyed my reactions. If you haven't already, head over to his page. That link is just down below. If you enjoyed my reactions, you know what to do. You need to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will catch you in the next video.